The heroes of today are known by most of us fans, but how about the heroes of the past? Who the heck are those guys? A lot of people know the Phoenix Force, but not as many know about the Enigma Force. The Enigma Force is another source of cosmic power, but this one was basically crafted to be the opposite of the darkness in the cosmos, which was made manifest by the god of darkness, the king in black, ruler and god of all symbiotes. No. This entity is so old it is believed to have come into existence around the same time as the universe, having been around since Null first also came into being. You might recognize this entity more as the hero Captain Universe from Marvel Comics, but even then I feel like Captain Planet is still more easily recognizable than Captain Universe would be. When I say Captain, I mean who first comes to your mind? For me it's definitely Captain Planet, or maybe Captain America? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. The Enigma Force is somewhat different than the Phoenix Force in the sense that it typically takes hold of a host for a shorter period of time, instead choosing to merge with a being simply for the purpose of handling a single universal threat, and then usually leaving that host after the crisis has been averted. Up next, we're moving from the cosmic to the supernatural. iVampire is Andrew Bennett. Andrew Bennett hails from DC Comics, and he's considered obscure or niche enough that if you actually just Google his name, Andrew Bennett, without anything else in that search field, this man comes up instead of this man. Who is Andrew Bennett? He's not that other guy, I'll tell you that much. He is basically a vampire who is a superhero. If you're familiar with the Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles, the novels, you could think of him as a superhero version of Lestat, basically. That's kind of what he is. Sometimes he teams up with other heroes to take on threats, but he also has a lot of his own vampire politics to deal with most of the time. Life ain't easy being a vampire. Now, while some people aren't as maybe Googleable, Artemis is possibly the most well-known of these least well-known characters on our list, but at the same time there are probably still a ton of folks out there who really only know Wonder Woman and maybe her mother Hippolyta when it comes to the Wonder Woman mythos and family, the Amazons. Artemis is not a family member per se, but she is one of the Amazons of Themyscira. For a while she even took up the mantle of Wonder Woman herself. She's used that alias before. She's been a long-standing rival to Wonder Woman, and although she tends to have a more brutal approach that sometimes makes her more of an antagonist in stories, she currently is more of a hero or anti-hero at the time of this recording in the comics. The Darkness is something completely different. This character is not from either Marvel or DC Comics, but instead is from the pages of Top Cow. Top Cow Productions is Mark Silvestri's baby. It's an imprint of Image Comics. It has its own universe and its own line, with tons of newer and older comics in terms of the different series that it carries. There is A Man Among Ye and Sunstone, some of the newer stuff, and also Witchblade and Cyberforce, some of the older stuff. Like Cyberforce and Witchblade, The Darkness is also an older series and an older character, both in terms of comic book history and in terms of canon history. If you've heard of Witchblade, The Darkness is another character that very much is based in that world. The Darkness and Witchblade go together like peanut butter and jelly. Like the Witchblade, The Darkness is an entity that takes a host and is passed down through the generations. As such, it's supremely ancient, with its most well-known host in the comics being Jackie Estacado in the historical modern era. But if you want a really metal Darkness story, you can actually head all the way back to the days of ancient Rome or even the Vikings to see what the Darkness was up to in the comics. Because yeah, there was a Darkness at those times too. Darkness in general is pretty metal, I feel like.
Number 5 is Arion. Arion is a figure often overshadowed by the more celebrated heroes of our time. Born to the cosmic forces of good and strife, Arion emerged as a Lord of Order, a manifestation of righteousness incarnate. His twin brother, Garn Danuth, embodied chaos, setting the stage for an eternal struggle between order and disorder. But it was Arion who shone the brightest in the annals of Atlantis, a prominent sorcerer king and scientist, a true polymath of his era. He stood as a beacon of hope, a paragon of virtue, and the very first hero of Atlantis. Yet beyond Atlantis, his legacy extends to the Amazons, etching his name into the tapestry of time as a hero unparalleled in ancient lore.
Number 4, Anthro. Created by Howard Post, Anthro is considered the first boy on Earth, existing in prehistoric times. He lived with his family during a period when the world was still in its primal stages. Anthro's curiosity and adaptability drove him to explore the challenges and mysteries of a world populated by both primitive creatures and nascent human tribes. Through his adventures, Anthro unwittingly played a significant role in shaping humanity's development and survival, often making use of his ingenuity ingenuity and courage to overcome obstacles, while also being part of some modern-day stories thanks to time travel. He has popped up in Crisis on Infinite Earths, Armageddon 2001, Zero Hour, Team 13, and even Final Crisis, and even been to the Marvel Universe where he interacted with Devil Dinosaur. Anthro's narrative explores the struggle for survival, the emergence of intelligence, and the foundations of human civilization itself. His story reflects the essence of human curiosity, resilience, and the quest for progress, serving as a symbol of humanity's earliest steps into the unknown. His powers are, well, pretty much non-existent. He doesn't really have any. He's just a person who's really smart and creative. But he has played a part in some big events and in more than just the background kind of way.
At number 3 is Gilgamesh. Now, the legend of Gilgamesh, a name echoing through the annals of time, transcending the boundaries of myth and history as the king of Uruk, a city-state nestled in the cradle of Mesopotamia. His story, carved into the very clay tablets of ancient Sumer, is a testament to human ambition and the quest for immortality. But what if I were to tell you that Gilgamesh's legacy may have transcended mere mortals? Enter the Forgotten One, a mysterious figure shrouded in the myths of time. A wanderer, a warrior, he bore the mantle of Gilgamesh, among many others, including Hercules, as if plucking stories from the pages of mythology itself. The Forgotten One, aka Gilgamesh's exile from the Eternals, his kingdom in Olympus, and his ultimate call to battle against the deviants bear a striking resemblance to the epic journey of Gilgamesh. Is it a mere coincidence, or could there be a deeper connection between these timeless narratives? The mysteries of the past continue to unravel, revealing the intricate tapestry of human history and its intersections with the world of myth and legend.
Number 2, Etrigan. Etrigan the demon was the firstborn of Belial, who was such a handful that Belial exiled Etrigan's mother to Masak Mavdil and told his son that his antics drove her away. That's rough. His antics ended up even driving Belial out of hell for several decades, returning with another son born of a mortal witch named Merlin. Etrigan was originally summoned to Earth to serve Merlin in a desperate final attempt to protect Camelot from the evil witch Morgana Le Fay. Merlin bound the demon to a mortal peasant named Jason, while Merlin went into hiding to rest, and these two lived a very long and brutal life together throughout history. Basically, how it would go is that Etrigan incited war and strife, and in return, Jason gained wealth and status. Not a horrible idea for some people. Despite sharing the same body though, the demon and his host are usually at odds with each other, and Jason Blood retains a lot of guilt based on Etrigan's demonic actions, which I think played a part in him being a bit more heroic, or as heroic as a demon can be, I guess.
And at number 1 is Beowulf, a legendary Gadish king who truly embodies an ancient superhero who defies the test of time. His 50-year reign was marked by epic battles, but it was the confrontation with the dragon guarding the Holy Grail's secrets that ultimately sealed his fate. Intriguingly, James Allison, a character with the ability to recall past incarnations, speculated that these heroic exploits might be embedded in our collective memory, hinting at a deeper connection between myth and reality. If you're wondering who that dude is, it's just some guy who can see past lives, no big deal. Anyways, Marvel Comics added a unique twist to Beowulf's tale, suggesting that he survived his dragon battle and re-emerged as an immortal warrior in the modern age. This reincarnated hero engaged in friendly rivalries with figures like Theseus and joined forces with Hercules to confront new gods. Beowulf's timeless narrative serves as a testament to the enduring appeal of ancient superheroes, reminding us that their legends continue to captivate, transcending generations and even reality itself.
Some existed before existence itself, beings who witnessed the birth of creation and will be there for its end. The gods of the fourth world, the angels of the Silver City. Comic book universes are teeming with ancient entities. These beings are not myth, they're reality. Join us as we unravel ancient superheroes more powerful than you think, Part 2. Starting things off with the Endless. A group of 7 immortal beings are as vast and timeless as the universe itself. Their existence transcends both space and time, making them akin to the very fabric of reality. While some readers might perceive them as existing outside the DC multiverse, the acclaimed series Sandman and its associated titles firmly anchor them within the main DC continuity. In fact, even iconic characters like Superman were shown attending Dream's funeral near the end of the series, underscoring their integral role within the DC universe. Delving into the Age of the Endless is a fascinating endeavor. Destiny, the keeper of all destinies, has existed for as long as anything, as everything is etched in his book. However, the existence of multiple universes, as exemplified by the Fourth World, raises questions about whether Destiny and the Endless predate them. The concept of destiny emerged at the dawn of time, but it's highly likely that destiny existed in some form even before time itself began. Destiny and the Endless are undoubtedly among the oldest forces in the universe, having emerged alongside them. Their existence alongside these ancient powers grants them the top spot in the rankings as the oldest characters in the DC universe. The Endless are not merely ancient, they are eternal. They have witnessed the birth and death of countless universes, and their influence extends far beyond the mortal realm. They are the guardians of dreams, desires, death, destiny, and other fundamental aspects of existence. Their stories are intertwined with the history of the DC universe, and their impact on the multiverse is immeasurable. The One Above All stands as the supreme being in the Marvel universe, an entity so profoundly powerful and enigmatic that it eludes complete comprehension. He is often considered the ultimate creator, the architect of all realities, existing outside the boundaries of time and space as we understand them. His age is immeasurable, predating the very concept of existence itself. To illustrate the sheer scale of his power, consider the Living Tribunal. This cosmic entity, a being of immense power who judges the entirety of the multiverse, is but a servant to the One Above All. The Tribunal, a tripartite being composed of eternity, infinity, and death, maintains balance across countless dimensions. Yet even this godlike figure bows before the One Above All, acknowledging his ultimate authority. Mark Waid, during his influential run on the Fantastic Four, first introduced this omnipotent being to the Marvel Universe. In a moment of metatextual brilliance, the One Above All appeared in the form of Jack Kirby, the legendary artist who co-created the Fantastic Four and shaped the visual landscape of Marvel Comics. This was not just a clever nod to a comics icon, it was a symbolic representation of the One Above All's role as the ultimate creator, mirroring the real-world creation of the Marvel Universe by Kirby and his collaborators. The One Above All, however, is not merely a distant creator. He has, on rare occasions, intervened in the affairs of the multiverse, often in subtle ways that reveal his compassion and understanding. He has offered guidance to lost souls, provided solace to the grieving, and even resurrected heroes when the fate of reality hung in the balance. These instances, though infrequent, highlight his benevolent nature and his profound connection to all living things. Etrigan the Demon, a character whose origins intertwine with the very fabric of the universe. In the celestial realm known as the Silver City, where angels under God's guidance devised the blueprint for the cosmos, Lucifer, the most radiant of them all, learned of the impending arrival of humanity and mortal life. A spark of dissent ignited within Lucifer's heart, leading him to question God's plans and incite a rebellion against his authority. Etrigan, a powerful demon, was among the angels who heeded Lucifer's call, aligning himself with the rebellious forces. The ensuing conflict between the angels and Lucifer's followers was a cataclysmic event, resulting in the expulsion of those who sided with the rebellious leader. Etrigan, along with his fellow rebels, was banished to the depths of hell, where he was transformed into a Rhymer, a figure of immense power within the infernal hierarchy. In the depths of hell, Etrigan's destiny intertwined with that of a human named Jason Blood, a knight who had been summoned to the underworld to confront a demonic threat. A bond formed between the two, granting Jason the ability to transform into Etrigan when he uttered a specific incantation. This symbiotic relationship transformed Etrigan from a mere demon to a hero, a champion of good who fought against evil on Earth. Etrigan's existence as a hero, however, was not without its complexities. While he battled against evil on Earth, he remained a creature of hell, tormented by the souls of the damned. This duality of his nature created an intriguing juxtaposition, where he was both a savior and a monster, a hero and a villain.
Number 5. Conan the Barbarian. That's right, Conan is an ancient superhero who actually also hails from Marvel. Not only that, but he was also an Avenger. Despite technically being a Marvel superhero, Conan is also kind of otherworldly, hailing from the sword and fantasy genre of comics. Although for Marvel, Conan is still labeled as an Earth 616 character, hailing from their main comic book reality. He does, however, come from the Hyborian Age, an old hero from the past. But he was one of the heroes still summoned by Doctor Strange and Elektra when they brought together their own team of savage Avengers to stand against the threat of Kulan Gath. This went down in Jerry Dugan and Adam Gorham's Savage Avengers series, which I still really want to read. It looks super good. It just looks like such a great time. And Conan's presence on the team is definitely part of the reason for my motivation to jump into this series. Hopefully in the near future. I have a lot of things to read.
And at 4, Mr. Majestic. I put this here because I like the word majestic, but also this is kind of weird. Mr. Majestic is a Wildstorm comic superhero created by H.K. Prager and Jim Lee. He made his first appearance in Wildcats number 11 as a backup story, but he's known for being the strongest superhero in the Wildstorm universe, and he shares quite a few similarities with Superman. But given that Wildstorm is owned by DC, there shouldn't really be any conflict there. Mr. Majestic is originally from the planet Kara and was known as Magistros, but yeah, this isn't like Superman at all. I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you saying that? He has 2 kids, Kanesha and Magistrate, but there was also an infertility crisis in his homeworld, which resulted in only 1 child per woman. Yeah, so how did this happen? Well, Magistros and Coda warrior Lady Xana, who's also later known as other things, it doesn't matter. They were chosen not to breed, but since Coda warriors became priestesses after giving birth, Xana's mother pretended that Kanesha was stillborn and then claimed to have given birth to her herself. Yeah, so basically Kanesha passed off her daughter as her sister, which is a whole... They're old. It's old. It's an old thing. I don't...
Number 3. Starbrand. Vin is the Starbrand in 1 million BCE. He ends up becoming the Starbrand after leaving his tribe. He left them because he believed he did not belong due to the fact that he realized he was gay. Something that seemed to be unacceptable to his people in that time. On his journey, he sought out a garden he had seen in a dream, which it turned out appeared to be the biblical paradise known as the Garden of Eden. Once he found it, he also found Burke. Also no vowels. No vowels for these people in prehistoric times. The 2 men became lovers, but would eventually be separated after Burke died in a deviant attack. It seemed the deviants wanted the garden for themselves. The attack resulted in a cave-in, and while Burke did not survive, Vin did, finding the body of a dinosaur who had previously been the Starbrand. Vin was imbued with its powers and fought against those who had killed Burke. However, in the process, this also destroyed the garden. Vin would go on to become the hero known as Starbrand in his time and join up with the other Stone Age Avengers of 1 million BCE.
But ultimately, in number 2, Doctor Strange Fate. Doctor Strange Fate is the amalgam of Doctor Strange, Charles Xavier, and Dr. Fate. Yeah, they're present in the amalgam universe of Earth 9602, and given that both the Sorcerer Supreme and Dr. Fate are present, I think that this qualifies as ancient. Dr. Fate alone just makes that happen. Strange Fate learned that 2 keys controlled by Access would restore the DC Comics and Marvel Comics universes to their own worlds, which would result in the destruction of the amalgam universe and therefore him. So, to keep his universe intact, Doctor Strange Fate recruits Jade Nova, Skulk, and White Witch to capture Access and bring him to Strange Fate so that the amalgam universe can remain active. But it turns out that he was actually a part of a problem, or a part of the problem. That's a story for another day. But Doctor Strange, yes, the real one, preserved the amalgam universe in a pocket dimension, essentially making it its own multiverse in a sense. But I also bring this up because I like the amalgam universe, okay? It's cool. Iron Lantern, Lobo the Duck, hell yeah.
Number 1. Man-Thing Sorcerer Supreme. Perhaps even more surprising is a reality where the Man-Things rule the planet. Their version of the 1 million BCE Avengers team is filled exclusively with Man-Things as a result. One of these Man-Things is known as the Sorcerer Supreme on this planet in the reality we know as Earth 91. Unfortunately, we do not get to know too much about this version of Man-Thing, as he is killed by the Masters of Evil when they come to his reality in Avengers Forever issue number 5 from 2022. What we do know is that like Dr. Stephen Strange and many other Sorcerer Supremes, this Man-Thing does seem to possess a cape, although it is a bit shorter than Strange's, I would say. His version of the Eye of Agamotto, or his version of the Third Eye, I'm not really sure what's going on with this, also seems to be something that he has, but he wears inside his chest, or on his chest. I think Dr. Strange ends up with a third eye at one point, but he's also got the eye of Agamotto, so I don't know. Instead of Man-Thing wearing this anywhere else or having it on a chain or a necklace, implying, that this eye is a part of him. Or perhaps it's simply, like I said, just a third eye. And it's just on the chest. I feel like that wouldn't be, I guess he doesn't really wear clothes because he's a Man-Thing, so actually I guess it'd be fine. Number 10, the Question. In the Prime Earth continuity, the Question, or a version of the Question, is revealed to be one of the oldest beings in the world of DC. This is revealed after we learn that the Question was one of the criminals in essence that the Circle of Eternity, located at the Rock of Eternity, chose to punish for their crimes against humanity. This group of beings who were punished were known as the Trinity of Sin. The Question would go on to become a hero following this. This version of the Question is largely a mysterious figure who has not appeared as much, probably because the original version of the character, Vic Sage, and his predecessor, Renee Montoya, ended up both returning to the comics recently. What we do know is that the Question had his memory erased from history and from himself, with even his face being left completely featureless, so he could never remember who he was. This was part of his punishment, but also done to guarantee that the Question would not be able to rise up once more as he had threatened to do originally, since he would no longer be able to remember what exactly he had done and why in the first place. So how can he return if he doesn't even know, why he was doing it in the first place? And apparently, we may never get to know any of this either, unless somebody returns to tell the rest of this version of the Question's tale. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, and if you also love superheroes that are surprisingly old, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 9, the Eternals. The Eternals are simply a group of heroes most people don't often think of, which is why I'm including them here. Despite them coming to the MCU, I would still say there are tons out there who have fallen off the MCU bandwagon recently and kind of just weren't particularly compelled to watch this film. So there are still a lot who do not know about the Eternals, which is unfortunate. This is a huge shame, I think, because the Eternals are really a cool group of heroes who have existed for millennia. Initially, their origin was that they were prehistoric humans who were basically modified by celestial tech, turned into their own race of beings. Later on, we'd get an additional bit of information on their origin in terms of kind of how they worked, how they operated, with them being resurrected by the Great Machine on the regular anytime they died. That's how they were eternal, almost being like kind of androids with a soul in a sense at one point. The Great Machine is actually also Earth, which is both a big blue ball that everyone lives on and at its core an actual machine, a resurrection machine in part. Its survival is intrinsic to the survival of Earth and all life forms living on it, and it was, up until recently, also tied to the Eternals, meaning that for Earth to continue, the Eternals would also have to continue to be called into existence. The Eternals, being ancient heroes, were initially the enemies of the Deviants, who were also created by the Celestials. They defended Earth against the Dark Celestials, or they tried to, and have also become ingrained in human mythology, with them being the real-world heroes from ancient epics and folklore. Hawkgirl. While Hawkman recently appeared in Black Adam in the dceu, which has been rebranded with their highly anticipated reset impending as simply the dceu, Hawkman isn't the only hero out there who is ancient among the Justice Society. And no, I'm not talking about Dr. Fate, who also is pretty old. In fact, many people probably didn't even know that Hawkman was really even ancient per se. He doesn't look old, that's for sure, but he is, in fact, not in body, but in soul. Hawkman is the reincarnated soul of ancient Egyptian Prince Khufu Qatar. Carter Hall is only the latest in a line of incarnations of the prince in the comics, and his love, Shayara, was also reincarnated as well throughout the years, becoming known as the hero Hawkgirl and also as Hawkwoman. Later, this origin would be retconned, tweaked somewhat, so they'd actually be even older than ancient Egypt, instead becoming ancient aliens from the planet Thanagar, who simply came to Earth. Their original souls in this version of the tale were each believed to belong to Shra and Qatar the Deathbringer, who were both cursed to be reincarnated alongside each other throughout eternity. Number 7, Gaia. Gaia is someone that we perhaps don't think of as being an ancient superhero because, well, we just don't really think of Gaia that much. She hails from Marvel Comics and is the goddess of Earth. Gaia is seen as one of the oldest gods that Marvel has to offer us, being one of their elder gods. In fact, Gaia is kind of one of the only elder gods who could be seen as heroic or good, at least one of I would say she's up there, considering she is one of the few who managed to avoid becoming a demon. She also actively sought out the demiurge in order to produce offspring that would help to rid the universe of the other elder gods who had been corrupted after they became demonic, giving birth to Atum, who then became the Demigorge, the God Eater. She's probably also one of the oldest heroes mentioned on this list at all, so there's also that. Number 6. Nubia. Nubia is possibly even older than most other Amazons, who are generally known for being old and immortal just standardly. In Infinite Frontier, her story was retconned so that she was no longer a woman held and mistreated against her will for a long time, but a princess reborn in the Well of Souls. Nubia was born from the Well of Souls reincarnated around the same time that Princess Diana was born, and the two grew up often being thought of as sisters. And if you're wondering why I was mentioning that she might be older than some of the other Amazons, that's just because she's reincarnated. So although Nubia in her own form is around the same age as Diana, she also got an old soul, you know what I mean? She would spend many years as the guardian of Doom's doorway, and would act as a loyal supporter to Queen Hippolyta, even when it seemed that she had betrayed her. In fact, Nubia's loyalty to the Amazons in the current continuity has not failed, and she even recently was chosen to be the new queen of the Amazons. And we're not just talking about the Amazons of Themyscira either, but in fact all known Amazons in existence, as there are actually multiple Amazonian tribes in existence throughout the world. Number 5. The Old Guard. Can we call the Old Guard heroes? I'm not really 100% sure on that. They are ancient warriors who have been many things over the years. Not all the things they've done were necessarily good, but I would say for the most part, they've tried to stay on the side of good, so I think I'm gonna count them for this list. And that's definitely where they are at when it comes to where we meet them in the modern day. Or at least, you know, the direction they're headed towards, I would say. Initially, the Old Guard were a group of immortal mercenaries led by their oldest member, Andy, aka Andromaca of Scythia, who is thousands of years old. It is in their welcoming of a new member that we get to see some of the good in them, despite them being essentially expensive, deadly, and nearly indestructible guns for hire. Their immortality is as much a mystery to them as it is to readers of the series, seemingly happening to each member miraculously and really without explanation. One minute they were alive, the next dead, and then inexplicably right back to living. In 2020, the Old Guard comics got their first film adaptation through Netflix. As with most Greg Rucka creations, the premise and his approach had me hooked, pretty much.
Number 4. Medieval Spawn. Okay, I'm gonna come right out and say this, I know nothing about Spawn. I did not watch the show, I never read the comics, I really have no right to be standing here in front of you talking about him, but I'm doing it anyways. Don't worry, I'm not actually talking about the Spawn. I'm going to be talking about medieval Spawn. Naturally, medieval Spawn was not only a hell spawn, but also a knight living in 16th century England. And if you think about it, knights were almost like medieval superheroes, with tales and stories all their own. Sir John of York fought during a civil war in England, but was released from his service to Henry II after he and 3 others mistook the king's anger for orders and went and took the life of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, once he passed at the hands of his king's bodyguards, he was sent to hell for his crimes, where he made a deal with Malbolgia and returned as a hellspawn. He then went around England committing good deeds in the hopes of redeeming himself, but he continues to survive after being basically bonded to his armor and now possessing anyone who chooses to don his helmet. And I need to start reading Spawn. Right now.
Number 3. Witchblade. While most people think of Sarah Pizzini when they think of the Witchblade, Sarah was not the only one to wield the blade, and was, in fact, by far the first. One of the oldest Witchblade wielders was actually Samantha. Samantha hails from ancient Roman times, though she herself is not Roman, but instead was a native of an old Celtic town that they overtook named Cecilia. At least I think its name was Cecilia. There's also a character in the story with her that's named Cecilia, so that's a little confusing, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. Samantha was enslaved, but would eventually escape and end up running into druids out in the countryside, who believed she was the one who would be destined to save the other Celts from the Romans. She was given the Witchblade and would set out on a mission to destroy all Romans. While a hero ultimately, I would say, at least of her own story, Samantha's tale and alignment is pretty complex, which is often what makes Witchblade hosts like her so interesting.
Number 2. Martian Manhunter. You know, I didn't actually know how old Martian Manhunter is. I knew that he was the last of his race of Martians, and I know that he is extremely powerful and should never be slept on. And I know that he speaks with the resolve and intelligence of someone who has seen some serious shiznit. But when I found out that according to DC, he is in the ballpark of around or over 220 million years old, I gotta say, I took a moment to just digest that. John Johns, or John Jones if you want to be rude and go by his human name, arrived on Earth after he was pulled there by a teleportation beam during an experiment conducted by Dr. Saul Erdel, who brought him through space and time and then passed away from the shock of actually finding a Martian. This is because John's race was practically wiped out a long time ago, leaving him completely alone and isolated. But now on Earth, with no one to tell him what the hell was going on, he eventually used his shapeshifting abilities to become a detective operating in Middletown, America. For a long time, he mainly operated from the safety of his human persona before he eventually exposed himself to the world and became a founding member of the Justice League, and also one of its most powerful members. Just saying.
Number 1. Ghost Rider. Way before Johnny Blaze was even ever born, there was Ghost. Ghost is the original Ghost Rider, or at least believed to be the original Ghost Rider, the initial spirit of vengeance. Retroactively anyways, as he made his first comic book appearance after Johnny Blaze historically, appearing in Marvel Legacy issue number 1 from 2017. So obviously that's pretty recent, but you know, canonically one of the first. Ghost became the first Ghost Rider during the prehistoric era and did so in order to defeat the mysterious Wendigo, who took over his pack, becoming their leader only to eat the pack members save for Ghost. Ghost would stumble upon a snake and speak its real name in order to become Ghost Rider, the spirit of vengeance. He also has a cool mammoth, or he had a cool mammoth, and then he got another mammoth, and I think that mammoth's gone too, but he likes mammoths. He would go on to join up with the Avengers of 1 million BC. Zealot is another character that is more outside of the mainstream when it comes to comics, which is honestly where I like to go for lists like this. Never before seen, being interpreted often for me as, you know, not one of the greatest superheroes of the big two. That is the big two publishers of DC Comics and Marvel, just so you know what I'm talking about when I say that. That being said, Zealot is technically from DC Comics at this point in time, but not originally. Originally, she actually hailed from the indie publisher known as Wildstorm. That was Jim Lee's comic publishing baby that he made when he got tired of larger publishers keeping all the rights for everything that their creatives had ever made for themselves. However, DC later would actually offer to buy Wildstorm, and Lee would agree. So now Wildstorm is a DC imprint and universe, so back into the big two it goes. And Jim Lee, of course, is pretty permanently back with DC Comics and has been for some time now. Zealot is an original member of Wildcats and is actually currently serving on the Birds of Prey team in the comics. Kind of fun. Zealot is Xana, an alien from the planet Kara who has lived for thousands of years, so she really old. She ancient. Not all mutants are from the modern day. Take a look at this next hero. Exodus is a super old mutant from Marvel Comics. For most of his life, he was in a stasis, so that's probably why you didn't see him around throughout all of history. Initially, Exodus was more of a villain in the comics, at least somewhat, and I'm sure he'll go back to being a villain at some point again. But during the Krakoan period of X-Men, there haven't actually been a ton of true mutant villains. This is because all the mutants decided to band together as one nation, working together for the greater good of mutant kind, all part of Krakoa or Arakko, as opposed to fighting against one another. So, save for a few, most mutants, even the ones that are villainous normally, have been acting as heroes. If you're wondering how old Exodus is, he was around during the 12th century and actually fought in the Crusades, being known then as the noble Grand Duke Bene du Paris. During his travels, he ran into Apocalypse and was chosen to become his champion. And even back then, Exodus had kind of a sense of heroic valiance about him. When Apocalypse attempted to pit Exodus against his friend, another ancient Marvel hero, the Black Knight, you may have heard of him, Exodus refused to fight him and instead turned on Apocalypse. Back again to the Wonder Woman mythos. Nubia is another character that is not well known from that, I would say, group of heroes. And what's even more surprising to me is that I actually thought Artemis might be lesser known than Nubia, but it turns out that Artemis is likely even more well known considering that she's actually made overall more comic book appearances, whereas Nubia, despite being a literal, sometimes sister to Wonder Woman, depending on her origin story, and more recently Queen of the Amazons, has not appeared as often, which surprises me, but here we are. Nubia, like Wonder Woman and Artemis, is also considered to be ancient. Her current origin in the Prime Earth continuity had her as an ancient princess who was actually reborn from the Well of Souls after her death, becoming the Amazonian warrior Nubia. Nubia was the last to actually be born from the Well of Souls and was born around the same time as Diana in the current main continuity. So in that version of the story, they grow up together and that kind of gives them that sisterly bond. The next one might surprise a lot of folks out there. Who is Angela. Well, although she originated in the pages of Image's Spawn, she is actually now Thor's long-lost sister. Wait, what? Okay, so here's the story. Angela was initially a Hellspawn hunter from the pages of Spawn comics. While Spawn technically gets his powers from Hell, Angela kind of works on behalf of Heaven in the war against Heaven and Hell, so that's kind of how that goes, and as such, she therefore hunts down people like Spawn. Hellspawn, that is. She was created by Neil Gaiman and Todd McFarlane, but there was an issue with that. The issue of who really owned this character, who had those creating rights. While Gaiman had made her for Spawn while working for Todd, McFarlane later claimed to own the rights solely to her character, and that's where things got rough between these two. The two entered a legal battle with Gaiman fighting to prove that he actually also had rights to Angela as a co-creator. The court sided with him, and money also had to be determined for how much Gaiman was owed based on how much money had been made by the use of this character that he co-created. During this time, Gaiman decided to bring Angela over to Marvel and even wrote 1602 for Marvel Comics just to help cover his legal costs. He actually dedicated 1602 to Todd, and I quote, for making it necessary. Angela, when she came over to Marvel, ended up after 1602 being incorporated into the main continuity, where she became the long-lost angelic sister of the god and superhero Thor. Up next, Shining Knight is a hero I didn't even know about before writing this this video for you guys. I love when I learn something new and then I get to share it with you all, whether that's something I've read or something I found through my own research. It honestly feels really special to me to share stuff like that with you. Shining Knight is basically like what would happen if Captain America was a medieval knight instead of like a World War II super soldier war hero. Shining Knight hails from DC Comics though, he's not from Marvel, just to be clear. He was initially a hero in the 6th century who was frozen for centuries before emerging once more in what we'd consider to be Captain America's original era actually, the 1940s. During his time as a hero in the 1940s, he was known as a member of the All-Star Squadron and the 7 Soldiers of Victory. So yeah, like I said, basically Captain America, but like what if he was a medieval knight? I love it. Finally, we have Agamotto. For those who are unfamiliar, Agamotto is the Sorcerer Supreme, or he was a Sorcerer Supreme, anyways. While he has acted as an antagonist to the current Sorcerer Supreme Stephen Strange in the past, initially Agamotto himself was a protector of Earth and a hero, way back in the past. He even served on the Avengers, or rather, the prehistoric Avengers that is, the Avengers of 1 million BCE.
Number 10, Medieval Spawn. Okay, I'm gonna come out right and say this. I know nothing about Spawn. I did not watch the show and I have never really read the comics. I really have no right to be standing here in front of you talking about him, but I'm doing it anyways. I'm gonna be talking about Medieval Spawn today. Naturally, Medieval Spawn was not only a Hellspawn, but also a knight living in 16th century England. If you think about it, knights were almost like medieval superheroes with tales and stories all of their own. Sir John of York fought during a civil war in England, but was released from his service to Henry II after he and 3 other knights mistook the king's anger for orders and went and took the life of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Once the knight passed on to the afterlife at the hands of his king's bodyguards, he was sent to hell for his crimes, where he made a deal with Malebolgia and returned as a Hellspawn. He then went around England committing good deeds in the hopes of redeeming himself, but he continues to survive after being basically bonded to his armor and now possessing anyone who chooses to don his helmet. I should probably start reading Spawn, it actually sounds kind of cool.
At number 9 is E-Man. E-Man is a truly peculiar hero forged in the comic crucible who embodies the timeless allure of unconventional superheroes. Hailing from a bygone era of comic book legends, E-Man radiates an unmistakable charisma. Born out of pure energy, his cosmic odyssey spanned galaxies and eons, drawing knowledge from the very fabric of the universe. On Earth, he assumed the identity of Alectron, with his emblem being a subtle nod to Einstein's iconic equation. E-Man would later cross paths with Nova Kane, a dancer and scholar whose luminous presence matched his own, and together, they confronted cosmic perils with powers that defied the laws of physics. We're talking energy eruptions, form shifting, and unbridled imagination. Yet, Nova's abilities danced in harmony with their ever-evolving narrative. Now, despite the series' fleeting existence, might I say, E-Man remains renowned as one of the wittiest heroes in comic book history. Perhaps I'm not alone for my yearning for a reboot with an E-girl leading the way? Just me? Okay, just me.
If you're enjoying the video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like and subscribing to Top 10 Nerd. And maybe ringing that notification bell if you want it. Number 8, Witchblade. The Witchblade is actually the offspring of the universe's primal forces, the Angelus or the light, and the darkness. To avert mutual destruction, a truce was struck between these two forces, and the Angelus and the darkness consummated, and in so doing, they conceived the Witchblade, creating peace and balance between them. Now, while most people think of Sarah Pizzini when they think of the Witchblade, Sarah was not the only one to wield the blade, and in fact, was by far the first. One of the oldest Witchblade wielders was actually Samantha. Samantha hails from ancient Roman times, though she herself is not Roman, but instead was a native of an old Celtic town that they overtook named Sicilia. Samantha was captured but would eventually escape and end up running into druids out in the countryside who believed that she was the one who would be destined to save the other Celts from the Romans. She was given the Witchblade and would set out on a mission to destroy all Romans. Lovely. While a hero, I would definitely say that her morals are a bit more complex, which is what makes Witchblade hosts like her so interesting in the first place.
At number 7 is the Eternal Warrior. Valiant Comics introduces us to Gilad Anipata, the Eternal Warrior. Unlike typical caped crusaders, Gilad's tale is one of immortality and ceaseless dedication. Bestowed with eternal life, Gilad has honed his skills over millennia. He's become a master of combat, wielding centuries of experience as his weapon. But his role goes beyond mere physical prowess. See, Gilad's mission is to safeguard the Geomancer, a mystical guardian chosen by the Earth itself. Geomancers are not your everyday heroes. They're in tune with our very planet, with the power to commune with nature.
Number 6, Ogon Bat. Okay, Ogon Bat is a unique and pretty cool character in his own right, but what makes him even cooler is that he was actually one of the world's first ever superheroes ever, even technically coming before Superman. Originating from Japan as the god of justice and protector of the weak, his origin is that he was originally an Atlantean who was sent forward in time 10,000 years to defend the modern world from evil. He wields a scepter that fires bolts of energy, causes many earthquakes, and slices through steel. He himself was immortal, could fly, breathe underwater, had X-ray vision, and possessed superhuman strength, speed, and invulnerability to bullets and lasers. He was summoned by a little girl who would call on him, causing a sparkle to appear around, which then turned into a bat, and then turned into the hero when it found its enemy. While he initially started as a comic, he also has a TV show that appeared in several different countries around the world. And I think he looks really cool.
The Living Tribunal stands as a monumental figure in the vast cosmic hierarchy of Marvel Comics, a being of immense power and authority who oversees the delicate balance of the entire multiverse. Conceived by the creative triumvirate of Stan Lee, Marie Severin, and Herb Trimpe, the Living Tribunal predates much of the Marvel Universe, his existence intertwined with the very fabric of reality. Functioning as a cosmic judge and arbiter, the Living Tribunal's role is akin to that of the Watchers, but on an infinitely grander scale. While the Watchers observe and record events within a single universe, the Living Tribunal's jurisdiction extends across all realities, ensuring that no single universe gains dominance over others and that the cosmic balance is maintained. His distinctive three-faced visage, each face representing a different aspect of his being, equity, vengeance, and necessity, reflects his multifaceted role in safeguarding the multiverse. The front face, representing equity, judges with impartiality, while the partially obscured face on the right, vengeance, ensures that transgressions against the cosmic order are met with appropriate consequences. The fully covered face on the left, necessity, embodies the inevitable course of events, even those that may seem harsh or unjust. The Living Tribunal's origins lie in the dawn of creation, his existence predating the formation of stars, galaxies, and even the very concept of time itself. He has witnessed the birth and death of countless universes, the rise and fall of civilizations beyond mortal comprehension. His age, measured in billions of years, is merely a pale reflection of his timeless nature. The Fourth World, a realm beyond the conventional boundaries of time and space within, is home to the New Gods, a pantheon of powerful beings who embody the eternal struggle between good and evil. Created by the legendary Jack Kirby, these characters, including the noble Orion and the escape artist Mr. Miracle, represent the pinnacle of his creative genius. The genesis of the New Gods lies in the destruction of the Third World, a realm inhabited by ancient deities. From the ashes of this cataclysm arose two distinct worlds, New Genesis, a verdant paradise brimming with life and harmony, and Apocalypse, a fiery hellscape ruled by the iron fist of Darkseid. The new gods, born from these contrasting worlds, inherited the mantle of their predecessors, becoming the new guardians of the cosmos. However, the precise timeline of their emergence remains shrouded in mystery. Are they older than the Presence, the enigmatic entity often regarded as the DC Universe's equivalent of God? Did they precede the angels who dwell in the Silver City? The answers to these questions remain elusive, as the new gods exist outside the conventional flow of time, making it difficult to pinpoint their exact age. And in the final spot we have the Spectre. A figure of awe-inspiring power and divine wrath, stands as the embodiment of God's vengeance in the DC universe. While most familiar as the spectral force that bonded with Detective Jim Corrigan in the 1930s, the Spectre's origins stretch back to the dawn of creation, his existence intertwined with the celestial drama that unfolded in the Silver City. Before he was the Spectre, he was Astar, an angel residing in the luminescent realm where angels crafted the cosmos under the guidance of the Presence. When Lucifer, the morning star, ignited a rebellion against the divine order, Astar was among those who succumbed to the allure of defiance. Cast out of heaven alongside the fallen angels, Astar's fate took a dramatic turn when the rogue angel Eclipso incurred the wrath of the Presence. It was then that Astar was transformed into the Spectre, the embodiment of divine vengeance. Tasked with delivering punishment upon the wicked, angels, as beings of divine creation, predate much of existence. While not the oldest beings in the cosmos, they stand among the most ancient, their origins lost in the mists of time. The Spectre, born from this ancient lineage, has been a recurring force in the universe, his presence felt across eons. The Spectre's modus operandi involves merging with a human soul, using their body as a vessel to carry out his divine mission. While Jim Corrigan is perhaps the most well-known of these hosts, he is but one in a long line of individuals who have been bonded with the spirit of vengeance. He is a figure of immense power, yet also one of profound tragedy, forever bound to carry out the will of the Presence, even when it conflicts with his own sense of morality. And there you have it, an in-depth look at ancient superheroes more powerful than you think.
It's Hercules. I think we all know the story of Hercules, whatever version you remember. The Disney animated movie, the DC version, the Roman or the Greek version, it's all generally the same thing. And I mean, even after that, this guy has a rap sheet of like 25 other heroic things he did, just like because he wanted to. A major factor in the well-known tragedies surrounding Hercules is the hatred that the goddess Hera, wife of Zeus, had for him. Because while there were many illegitimate offspring that Zeus, sired, let's say, Hercules was the son of an affair that Zeus had with a mortal woman. And not just any mortal woman, but a mortal that Zeus wanted so badly that he disguised himself as her husband in order to lay with her, and ordered Helios, the god of the sun, to not let the sun rise for 72 hours so that his one last night with her would last. Yeah, so not only is he the bastard of a mortal woman, he's also the product of a forced 3-day night, which I guess doesn't really bother anyone living in like Alaska or Norway, because of the whole 6 months of night thing, not anything weird.
Number 9, Odin. Odin ended up joining the Stone Age Avengers sometime after he actually was said to have created the humans on Midgard, which was then known as Aesheim. In doing so, he had disappointed his father Bor, who decided to punish Odin by hurting the humans. Now, as someone who often seems pretty detached from human suffering later in his life, it's pretty wild to think that Odin possibly created them and was perhaps one of the first cosmic beings to actually care for them as a superhero. And I know what you're thinking, but Amanda, we all know Odin is super old. Yeah, you know that, but did you know he was this heroic? Because I always find it very surprising myself. Odin ended up returning to Aesheim to act as its protector and also to learn how to better control Mjolnir, which was his hammer at the time. He ended up befriending multiple prehistoric superheroes, joining the Avengers of 1 million BCE, and he also ended up developing a deeply romantic relationship with his teammate, the Lady Phoenix. In fact, it was even revealed that the Phoenix was actually the true mother of his son, Thor, because that's what's happening now, so there we go.
In a Blue Beetle. In 1964, during the Silver Age of Comics, Charlton Comics revised the character of Dan Garrett, the original Blue Beetle, for a new Blue Beetle series. Charlton's new Blue Beetle retained the original's name, but no powers or backstory, making him a different character. This Beetle was an archaeologist version of Dan, who obtained a number of superhuman powers including super strength, flight, supervision, ability to generate energy blasts from a mythical scarab that he found during a dig in Egypt, where it had been used to imprison an evil mummified pharaoh, because of course it was, which gave way for the DC Comics version of Jaime Reyes. DC's introduction of Jaime Reyes in 2006 retconned and expanded upon the Blue Beetle mythos, but given that the scarab was found during a dig in Egypt, where it was used as an attempt to overthrow Vandal Savage back in the 26th century BCE. Yeah, that's pretty ancient to me, okay? I mean, the scarab was created by Nabu, for God's sakes.
Number 7. Iron Fist. Fan Fei is the Iron Fist of the Stone Age Avengers, also known as the Avengers of 1 million BCE. Fan Fei is actually the reason why the ritual to become the Iron Fist and gain its unique powers was all about fighting Shao Lao in a battle to the death. This wasn't, however, because Kunlun wanted to challenge Fan at the time and believed she should, be their champion. This actually happened as the result of a punishment. Fan Fei, you see, was a kung fu master who had been trained since birth in Kunlun, but her curiosity of the outside world caused her to sort of leave Kunlun in secret. She came across cavemen who were helpless against the beasts that basically often attacked them, and she decided she was going to help them. Fan sought to help these people by teaching and training them herself in the ways of kung fu. However, it was forbidden in Kunlun to share your knowledge, and when her people found out, they marked her as a criminal. As punishment, her students were brought to Shao Lao and basically fed to the dragon. Forced to watch, Fan Fei went into a rage, breaking her shackles, seeking to share in the same demise as her students, becoming deeply distraught. However, when she went up against Shao Lao, she struck the dragon and her fist went right through, killing it and coating her fist in its blood, giving her the power to channel her chi into fiery fists and leaving her with a dragon mark, which marks her as the Iron Fist.
And at 6, Dr. Fate. Nabu the Wise was a lord of order and cosmic being who arrived at Earth billions of years ago to take on a proactive role in battling the Lords of Chaos. A cosmic being with near limitless magical power, his spirit resides in the Helmet of Fate and is the source of the great power held by those who wear the mantle of Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate is just the helmet. Fun fact, you all knew that. Dr. Fate's origins begin over 10 billion years ago, which I personally think qualifies as ancient, or maybe even older than that, if there is anything older than that. I don't know. My senior year contact teacher was pretty old. But not long after the formation of the universe, were there born two elemental forces, the Lords of Order and the Lords of Chaos. You can kind of see where this conflict is going. On the world called Celia, the Lords of Order manifested themselves, the first sentient race in the universe, and a race of incorporeal magical beings at that. After millennia, circa 3500 BCE, the Lords of Order descended onto Earth and then became Nabu the Wise, who was also an advisor to the pharaohs of Egypt. He's old, okay? I don't know what else I said 10 billion years. I think that's pretty solid.
Number 5. Lady Phoenix. Well, I did think that Phoenix was a little too on the nose for my part 1 of this list. There were some who actually requested her in the comments, so fair enough. Some people want to know more about her. And since she was featured in our thumbnail / cover photo for that first part of our list, I felt for all you loyal nerds who came to this part 2, I should oblige you and tell you more about Lady Phoenix. Who is the woman we featured on that thumb? She is also a member of the 1 million BCE Avengers, also nicknamed the Stone Age or Prehistoric Avengers. Before she was the host of the Phoenix, she was simply known as Firehair, named after her bright red hair, which left her abandoned by her parents only shortly after she was born into the world. Anyone who their tribe deemed basically different in some way was sacrificed in this manner. This was also to be the fate of Firehair, but she was rescued by wolves, so she ended up being okay. She grew up among her pack, but eventually joined up with the Tribe Without Fear, a group of prehistoric mutants. Her own mutant powers would manifest, and she would eventually lose her tribe and become bonded to the Phoenix Force. Ultimately resisting its dark temptations, she would go on to become one of the founding members of the Stone Age Avengers alongside Odin. While it was suggested that Lady Phoenix was actually the true mother of Thor, we learned in Avengers 1 million BC issue number 1 from 2022 that her relationship ended with Odin before Thor was born, with Gaia being Thor's natural mother as we knew before, Freya being Thor's adoptive mother, and Lady Phoenix being dubbed kinda like his bonus mother after she helped Gaia give birth to Thor and saved him from a premature death. And then Gaia was like, you can be mother to Thor too. So we got that all figured out. Sorry what I said on part 1 is not exactly true. Not his mother, well she is his mother, but she's not his only mother. He's got a lot of mothers. Number 4. Artemis. Artemis was also once Wonder Woman, don't you know? Back in the New Earth continuity, she herself is an Amazon, and despite her youthful appearance, like most Amazons, she's pretty old. In fact, in the New Earth continuity, she was also granted eternal youth as the result of a spell that Circe had cast upon her. In the Prime Earth continuity, she is just straight up immortal. She hails from the Bana Migdal, which is a splinter group of Amazons all their own. Like I said, there are many different tribes. Princess Diana of Themyscira and Artemis have often been presented as rivals in the comics, with Artemis often being jealous of Wonder Woman and kind of striving to prove herself superior to Diana. But despite this, she is ultimately a force for good and a hero, though her warrior's heart might be a little harder in comparison maybe to Diana's when it comes to her heroic approach. Number 3. Red Sonja. Red Sonja is an interesting one to think of as old, considering how she is often portrayed in the comics, but like Conan, who I touched on during the part 1 of this list, Sonja herself is also ancient in the sense that she hails from the past, the Hyborian Age. She was a creation of Robert E. Howard's, who initially existed within Marvel, but eventually ended up being moved over to Dynamite when it comes to who owns the right to this fiery, fierce warrior character. The Hyborian Age was actually a pastime in Marvel history, at least that is what we're led to believe based on the fact that both she and Conan hail from the reality of Earth 616. Red Sonja set out on her path to become a fierce fighter at a young age, after she was left orphaned when her family were killed and her people were attacked by a group of mercenaries. Red Sonja hails from Western Hyrcania and often fights to help those who cannot help themselves, even sometimes training those she comes across so that they might actually act as a hero in their own story. She is sometimes also a sword for hire, but generally only takes jobs that kind of fit with her own particular moral code. And she does have a moral code, even though she's a mercenary a lot of the times. Number 2. Shazam. Wait. Billy Batson is super old? No, we aren't talking about Shazam. No, not that Shazam. Not the Shazam formerly known as Captain Marvel. We're talking about the Wizard, who gave Billy Batson his powers and who has also been known by the name of Shazam. Initially in the Prime Earth continuity, we were led to believe that the Wizard was simply someone who bestowed powers on Billy, but we'd later learned that he was actually one of the old gods Shazam would actually get his powers from. This truth of the Wizard's, aka Mama Roggins, aka Shazam's origin would be revealed after Billy Batson was left depowered following the action of Grail, Darkseid's daughter, who basically cut off his access to his powers by untethering the old gods from his magic lightning. While not a direct superhero, the Wizard is a powerful force of good who was even able to help repower Billy from the afterworld in spirit form, finding basically new gods for him to be empowered by. Number 1. Eternal Warrior. Marvel and DC are not the only publishers who have ancient heroes. Even Dynamite, now owning Red Sonja, is not the only publisher with ancient superheroes by any stretch. A lot of people have ancient superheroes. In fact, one publisher that was suggested in the comments that has tons of ancient superheroes is Valiant Comics, so I'm happy to be talking to you about that. Great suggestion. This particular hero from Valiant that we're talking about is Gilad Anipada. Gilad was one of 4 siblings granted immortality. He has used this extended time over his life to train up, becoming a master in many different areas of combat. He acts as a hero in the comics, being tasked with defending the Geomancer of any given generation. Geomancers were kind of born in a line, and they're magical heroes in their own right who were chosen to act on behalf of the Earth as the planet's defender, and who are able to communicate with nature and the Earth. And the Eternal Warrior basically just acts as like their guardian, so heroes protecting heroes.
Number 10. The Immortal. With a name like the Immortal, you bet your socks this guy has been around for a hot minute. Due to an accident that happened approximately 3,000 years ago, the man who became the Immortal was exposed to an unknown anomaly that gave him superhuman abilities that put him almost on par with Viltrumites, making him one of the 3 known beings in the universe that can make that claim. But outside of his incredible strength, speed, durability, stamina, and flight powers, the Immortal is, you guessed it, immortal. Able to regenerate at an insanely fast rate, regrowing limbs and organs, not needing food, water, or oxygen to survive, and being immune to all poisons, toxins, venoms, viruses, bacteria, parasites, pathogens, and allergens. However, funnily enough, there is a way to, quote, kill him. If the Immortal's head is separated from his torso, it needs to be manually reattached for his healing factor to activate. But despite that, even when they aren't attached, he still remains perfectly preserved until the reattachment happens. He's been around for so long that he's been a knight, possibly under King Arthur as Lancelot, an explorer under or possibly as Christopher Columbus in the Spanish Armada. He fought in the American Revolution, became president of the United States by taking the alias of this guy Abraham Lincoln you might have heard of, operative, and he fought as a soldier in the First World War. In the 1930s is when he officially became a superhero and more recently became a member of the Guardians of the Globe.
And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that like button? Hey. Click it! Number 9, The Darkness. The story featuring this host of The Darkness is so vicious and bloody, but also just so raw and emotional. I love it personally. While many think of a Jackie Estacado when they think of The Darkness, he is not the only host The Darkness entity has ever had, which honestly, if you're familiar with the story of Jackie, you probably also kind of know that because, you know, it gets passed down. In fact, there were many who came before Jackie. Case in point, Estacado, the Darkness host who is a leader of a Visigoth tribe during the final days of the ancient Roman Empire, circa 410 BC, after its downfall had really already begun, and some would say even kind of already concluded, I guess. Estacado is a known rebel against the Roman Empire, and a powerful one at that, wielding the Darkness in his fight against the last standing Roman legions. He ends up going head to head with Legatus and his legion after already dying and being resurrected by the Darkness twice. While he offers Legatus a chance to surrender, Legatus knows he is doomed either way, since the Roman Empire is coming to an end, and so chooses not to back down, as he doesn't really see surrendering as a real option given the punishment for doing so, were they even able to make it back home at this point. As such, Legatus's legion falls, and Estacado makes plans to march with his tribe to Rome.
Number 8, Ogon Bat. Okay, Ogon Bat is a unique and cool character in his own right, but he was also one of the world's first superheroes ever, even technically coming before Superman. Originating from Japan as the god of justice and protector of the weak, his origin is that he was originally an Atlantean who was sent forward in time 10,000 years to defend the modern world from evil. He wields a scepter that fires bolts of energy, causes mini earthquakes, and slices through steel. He himself was immortal, could fly, breathe underwater, had X-ray vision, and possessed superhuman strength, speed, and invulnerability to bullets and lasers. He was summoned by a little girl who would call on him, causing a sparkle to appear around, which then turned into a bat, and then turned into the hero when it's found its enemy. It's very weird, but we just roll with it. While he initially started as a comic, he also has a TV show that appeared in several different countries outside of Japan, and I think he looks really cool. So, yeah.
Number 7, Cosmic Ghost Rider. Cosmic Ghost Rider is an interesting one. While I initially thought of the prehistoric Ghost Rider Ghost when it came to old Ghost Riders, I realized that despite being from an alternate future, Cosmic Ghost Rider is also ancient. But you know, future ancient. Cosmic Ghost Rider is the spirit of Frank Castle, who ends up becoming the spirit of vengeance after he is killed during Thanos' invasion of Earth. In this version of the story, Thanos succeeds in basically destroying Earth, and by the time Frank returns as Ghost Rider to the planet's surface, it's kinda too late for him to save his friends. He ends up alone on the planet, and after years and years of solitude with no one left to avenge, becomes, well, insane, as I think pretty much almost anyone would. Despite eventually becoming Thanos' herald, CGR is really doing his best to be a good guy. He only ever really even joined up with Thanos because, you know, well, there was no one left and he didn't want to be alone. Before even joining up with Thanos, Cosmic Ghost Rider did attempt to get his revenge on the Mad Titan, teaming up with Galactus, but even Galactus fell in this fight against this alternate King Thanos.
Number 6, Exodus. Grand Duke Benny du Paris was a 12th century nobleman from medieval France. Does that count as ancient? I don't know, anyone who was around then, so I'm taking it and just running with it, okay? Cool. What you gonna do about it? Nothing, because I'm just an image on your screen. As an adult, Bene was a crusader for the Knights Templar sent to Jerusalem during the Crusades, and he even became best friends with Eobar Garrington, the Black Knight of that era. The two had set out on a quest to find the Tower of Power, when his abilities manifested after an encounter with the Phoenix Force, which were then improved further thanks to the mutant apocalypse. But thanks to Big Blue, Exodus was trapped in a tomb until the modern day when he was awoken by Magneto and joined his cause. Exodus is one of the most powerful psionic mutants in existence, with such a pristine use of telekinesis and telepathy that he can even alter electrons and molecules. His power is so strong that Marvel even had to debuff him by making his powers dependent on his or others' level of faith in this mutant, although he still regularly kicks some serious butt.